Hello everyone, and welcome to my Sister Wives For You channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Kody Brown hospitalized with mental illness, and Robyn's secret reason finally comes out in the most shocking Sister Wives twist yet. In a stunning turn of events that sent shockwaves rippling through the Sister Wives fandom and left social media erupting in disbelief, rumors swirled across fan spaces that Kody Brown had been rushed to a hospital amid a dramatic emotional breakdown, a moment years in the making. According to insiders and longtime watchers who insist the father of 18 had been pushed to the brink by the implosion of his plural family, the heavy guilt that followed his fractured relationships, and the crushing realization that his life had become a vortex of tension, distrust, and emotional exhaustion. It was the kind of moment many fans whispered could happen eventually. The moment the confident, chest-puffing, lion-mane-flicking Kody Brown, who once strutted across television screens boasting about leadership, unity, and divine direction, could no longer hold his own world together. And as this fictional dramatic tale spread like wildfire, speculations pointed to one person at the eye of the storm: Robyn Brown, the wife who once promised peace, unity, and forever love, yet in this imagined scenario is rumored to have delivered the final emotional nudge that sent Kody spiraling. According to fictional insiders in this suspenseful storyline, Kody's emotional collapse allegedly followed a long night of arguments inside the Flagstaff home, where whispers claimed that Robyn finally admitted the truth she had been hiding for years, that she could not, and never had been able to, carry the emotional weight of Kody's dream of polygamy, and that the pressure, isolation, and endless responsibility had driven her into survival mode long before his other marriages crumbled. Fans have long debated whether Robyn secretly struggled beneath the glossy exterior of being the favorite wife, and in this dramatic arc, sources suggested she broke down and told Kody he needed help, explaining that she had been protecting him from himself, shielding the world from his spiraling stress, and carrying the burden of his regret since the family fractured on national television. And when she finally spoke her truth, Kody reportedly lost control. Overcome by the emotional tidal wave of realizing his last refuge, the one place he believed loyalty still lived, was not as unshakable as he imagined. As this dramatic fictional shocker circulated through fan discussions, those close to the imaginary situation described Kody as exhausted, emotionally depleted, and overwhelmed by the pressure of trying to rebuild what had fallen apart, while simultaneously dealing with the on-camera exposure, constant criticism, financial stress, loss of spiritual direction, and the heavy silence left by Christine, Janelle, and Mary walking away. In this imagined scene, he sat in the quiet of his home, hands shaking, mind swirling, replaying every argument, every moment of pride, every decision that chipped away at his once mighty family structure. This wasn't just a health scare. It was framed like a symbolic collapse, a breaking point for a man who had carried the weight of being a patriarch in front of millions, only to realize that the empire he thought he built on faith was instead built on fragile threads of obligation, jealousy, fear, and unspoken resentment. And while Robyn called for medical help, the emotional eruption was described like watching a dynasty fall, slowly, painfully, and inevitably. In this fictionalized emotional meltdown, Robyn's reason, explosive and whispered through imagined sources, was simple yet devastating. She felt guilty. Guilty for being the final wife. Guilty for being the catalyst in the family's unraveling. Guilty for the isolation her arrival inadvertently created. Fans have argued for years that Robyn's presence tilted the family balance, and in this dramatic take, she finally admitted she couldn't carry Kody through the wreckage anymore. She confessed she feared he might never forgive himself, and as she broke down crying, saying she never wanted to take him from his other wives, the weight of the past decade came crashing down. The fanfiction narrative painted her as overwhelmed, burdened by love and regret, terrified that Kody's legacy would be remembered not as a pioneer of faith, but as a cautionary tale of ego, favoritism, and emotional neglect. Her tearful confession wasn't betrayal, it was surrender. When medical help arrived in this fictional dramatization, Kody allegedly looked lost and hollow, no longer the fiery patriarch who roared about divine callings and man-of-the-house authority, but instead a man stripped of armor, grappling with identity, faith, family, and the harsh truth that the real battlefield had always been inside himself. Fans imagined him whispering he didn't know who he was anymore, that he had spent decades trying to be everything to everyone and ended up with nothing but heartbreak. As he was taken to seek emotional and mental support, Robyn reportedly sat trembling, clutching his belongings, unsure whether she had saved him or broken him further, but knowing she could no longer stay silent, no longer carry him alone, no longer pretend that keeping his pain hidden made anything better. And while the other wives in this dramatic storyline were not present, fan imaginings suggested their reactions would be a whirlwind of complicated emotions. Christine, having rebuilt her life with joy, could feel shock yet stand strong in her belief that leaving saved her soul. Janelle, who always saw Kody's stress rising like a storm cloud, might feel sorrow but also relief that he finally sought help. Mary, who clung to hope far longer than many understood, could feel heartbreak for the man she once loved and frustration that his pain only surfaced when she was gone. This wasn't a villain story, it was a tragedy, a moment of reckoning for a man who believed faith alone could hold a family forever, only to learn that love requires nurture, humility, compromise, and balance, things lost along the journey. And so the sister wives world, in this emotional dramatization, buzzed with introspection, speculation, and disbelief. Fans didn't cheer. They whispered, they analyzed, they debated the price of pride and the weight of family dreams. Had polygamy cracked Kody's spirit? Did the emotional fractures start long before cameras rolled? Was Robyn truly the cause, or just the mirror reflecting what was already breaking? As fictional nurses monitored Kody and Robyn sat in silent worry, one thing became clear in this imagined version of events. Even giants fall, even strong voices tremble, and behind every confident leader can be a scared heart desperate to be understood. Whether viewers see Kody as hero or villain, the emotional collapse portrayed in this dramatic tale underscored one painful truth. Sometimes the real battles aren't between wives, faith, or family dynamics, but inside the quiet corners of a person's own mind and heart. In the end, as this fictional emotional saga unfolded like a cinematic tragedy, one question lingered across fan pages and whispered conversations. Was this the beginning of healing, or the final unraveling of a man who once believed he could guide multiple wives, numerous children, and a spiritual legacy, only to discover that carrying the world can crush even the strongest shoulders? And as the credits rolled on this dramatic storyline, viewers were left with a haunting image: Robyn wiping tears from her face, Kody receiving care and reflection, and a once mighty family scattered but forever connected through the shared, complicated, beautiful, and painful history of a plural love that just couldn't withstand the storm it created. In the days that followed this fictional emotional collapse, the silence around the Brown family home felt heavier than ever, like a thick fog clinging to every corner of the once bustling household. No cameras, no confessional chairs, no chaotic dinners filled with tension and forced polygamy smiles, just Robyn pacing in quiet hallways, clutching a tissue in one hand and her phone in the other, unsure whether calling the other wives would bring comfort or unleash storms she couldn't mentally brace herself for. In this imagined emotional aftermath, her makeup smudged, her eyes swollen, she replayed the moment she told Kody that she was afraid to keep pretending everything was fine, afraid to watch him crumble while she tried to hold him together with whispered reassurances and late-night prayers. She had always been the one to stand behind him, to defend him when the world turned its back, to insist that polygamy was worth the sacrifice. But in this moment, she realized sacrifice had swallowed them whole, and all that remained were two exhausted souls sitting in the ruins of a dream too heavy to carry. Meanwhile, the fictional chatter online exploded. Fans analyzed every detail, every past argument, every moment when Kody's swagger cracked, when his voice trembled, when his frustration boiled beneath the surface. They remembered the pandemic tensions, the harsh ultimatums, The way his leadership style mutated from confident to controlling to confused. Some proclaimed they saw this coming, that the crumble was inevitable once the emotional dam broke and he no longer had 4 wives orbiting his ego, feeding his identity as husband, leader, prophet of his family's destiny. Others theorized that this collapse wasn't weakness, but overdue vulnerability. The moment he finally allowed himself to feel everything he'd been shoving down behind bravado, pride, and a desperate desire to appear strong on television. Was this a breakdown or a breakthrough? Fans debated fiercely, but one thing was clear in this dramatic arc. No one could deny the tragedy of a man who once declared himself guided by God, now sitting in a quiet hospital room, staring at white walls, trying to rebuild himself from the inside out. Robyn knew the world was talking, and every buzzing notification felt like judgment stabbing through her chest. She wondered if she should call Christine, admit that she never meant for things to unravel the way they did. She wondered if Janelle, with her quiet emotional wisdom and steady resilience, could offer the guidance she herself lacked, the strength to support a broken man while staying intact. She even thought of Mary, who had once loved Kody with a loyalty so fierce that it blinded her to her own heartbreak, until she, too, finally walked away. But dialing any of their numbers felt impossible. How could she explain that the man who once thundered through rooms with confidence now whispered his fears like fragile secrets? How could she tell them that the Kody who criticized their decisions was now questioning every decision he'd ever made? How could she admit that she, the wife who stayed when all others left, felt unsure she had the strength to be his anchor anymore? Instead, she sat alone, listening to the sound of her younger children sleeping, and wondered whether love was enough, or if love had always been the illusion they clung to when faith felt too heavy. Inside the imagined hospital, Kody wasn't angry, not in this version of events. He wasn't pacing or lecturing or demanding explanations from God. He sat still, hands clasped, wrestling with emotions he spent years ignoring. Regret washed over him like waves, not just for the breakup of his marriages, but for the years he spent choosing pride over peace, control over compassion, fear over vulnerability. He thought of Christine's laughter, Janelle's calm wisdom, Mary's once unshakable loyalty, and yes, even Robyn's devotion that came at a cost too high for either of them to understand in time. He wondered whether leadership and love had been confused in his heart, whether he believed leading meant being worshipped instead of being understood. He wondered how many apologies remained unspoken, how many wounds never healed because he refused to admit he felt wounded too. And as he stared at the small window overlooking the Arizona sky, he realized he was tired of pretending to be invincible, tired of holding a family together by force instead of connection, tired of defending choices that no longer felt divine but human, painfully human. Meanwhile, Christine and Janelle in this fictional continuation felt a strange heaviness when they heard whispers, not schadenfreude, not triumph, but a quiet ache. Whatever had happened between them and Kody, whatever shattered dreams and broken promises, they once built a life together. They once shared hope. In this imagined emotional universe, Christine closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and whispered a short prayer for peace, not for reconciliation, not for the past to return, but for Kody to finally face himself and heal. Janelle, meanwhile, reflected on her years in the family, years of compromise, patience, silent strength, and hoped that perhaps this moment, painful as it was, might become the moment he truly understood the cost of misplaced priorities. As for Mary, she felt a twinge of compassion, remembering the early days, the laughter before resentment crept in, and though she had moved on, she quietly wished him clarity. None of them wished him harm. They didn't need him to fall. Life had already humbled him. What they wanted, deep down, was peace for themselves and yes, for him too. And back in her quiet home, Robyn finally sat, exhaling the breath she felt she'd been holding for years. Maybe this collapse wasn't the end. Maybe it was the beginning. Maybe loving someone meant not protecting their pride, but holding their hand through their breaking. Maybe for the first time, Kody was truly seeing himself, not as a patriarch, not as a husband, not as a public figure, but as a man who needed healing. And as she whispered into the empty room, "Please let this be the moment things change," she wasn't speaking about fame or polygamy or legacy. She was speaking about heart, humanity, redemption. Because in this fictional emotional journey, even the loudest stories eventually quiet down, and when they do, the truth has a chance to speak, softly, painfully, beautifully, into the spaces left behind.